I was approached by the publishers, by Ebury, by Random House, to do a book and another book. I've done a few before, and then I said to Scully, why don't we do a NOPI cookbook? Because over the years, this place will have been 5 years next February. Yeah. We've had so many amazing recipes and so many happy customers that come in and just love what we do, and we thought, like, okay, let's do a book. Let's showcase our food. And Scully here, who's got a really amazing palette and a whole range of Asian ingredients up his sleeve, really introduced new ingredients to me and to the Ottolenghi family. So it was all about showcasing those ingredients in the restaurant. I've learned so much from Scully. I mean, I think when we met, which was in 2003 or four,
yeah.
I had a very vague understanding or knowledge of the Southeast Asian food or Asian food, and I kind of was very much, both Sammy and I are, we're the children of the Middle East. We were completely into our vegetables and lenses and pulses and rice and all those wonderful things, tahinis and chickpeas. And I had a really very cursory knowledge of Asian food, and over the years, through Scully, through other people that I've worked with and traveling, I've really learned a lot about this world. And it's always, I mean, the nice thing with Scully is that he doesn't only cook Asian food, he mixes things up in a really interesting way. So, he could take an ingredient, that I would consider quite different, like miso paste, which now I use quite a lot, but I didn't used to 8 years ago, and really introduce it in all sorts of contexts. Now we even mix miso and tahini. It's that kind of implausible scenario, but we really do. We spend a lot of time, especially when we're working on the book, thinking up dishes, even more than thinking up dishes, trying to make dishes that started off in the restaurant kitchen work for home cooks, which is a massive challenge. And Scully always says, it's the biggest challenge I've ever had, to take food that is created for a restaurant and turn it into something that people could actually cook at home. Yeah. And we can spend hours thinking of, simplifying, substituting, making flavors work for you.
One of the best things when we were making this book in that 2.5 years ago in the test kitchen, because you always worked with the Guardian recipes. So it's always like, even though we're working on a NOPI cookbook, I always like listing what he was making for the next week Guardian. And sometimes we actually created some great dishes, came to NOPI main courses. The one I think was the nudie I'm playing right now. Yeah. But it's always been like that. It's always been a lot of food and passion about it. And sometimes I think we talk more about food than each other's lives. And that's a great thing.
We definitely do that. I'd say, in my opinion, I mean, if someone doesn't feel completely confident to tackle the very complicated recipes in this book, there is a section for simple side dishes that still have wonderful flavors but are really simple to cook. Like there's this celeriac that's roasted for a very long time, and it only has like 3 ingredients, celeriac, olive oil and salt, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So there's some key recipes, or there's the carrots with the cheese. What's the cheese?
That was the doppel cannoli. Where we use feta cheese instead.
Yeah. So, there's certain recipes that are really kind of simple to tackle, and they're obvious because the ingredient list would be, 3 to 8 ingredients rather than 20 ingredients. And they really do deliver on flavors, Asian green vegetables with chili and ginger and all sorts of stuff like that. Once you feel a little bit more confident, you can move on to the more complicated recipes, and then you can move on to the epic recipes that that are kind of like a weekend's commitment, like our pastilla, which involves shredding and cooking spinach and making layers and then filling it with phyllo and baking. I mean, there's quite a few of those. Not that many, but some recipes are a commitment, but others are actually not. What we try to do is, because the dishes in the kitchen are quite labor intensive, they involve quite a few elements and certain ingredients that are hard to get. We kind of tackle it from all these directions when we translate it from a restaurant kitchen to something you can do in a domestic environment. So, first of all, in terms of the ingredients, of course we want to introduce the reader or the home cook to our favorite ingredients, like this dried mandarin peel or Szechuan peppers or miso. But we also at the same time try to offer alternatives. So we want to make sure that people don't stop when they read the ingredient list, but actually go and do it. So we try to find alternatives. So rather than dry orange peel for the famous Asian master stock that we use for the chicken, we use just normal orange skin, and it works. It doesn't give quite the same aroma, but it's quite close. So we do this on the ingredient front, and then on the complexity front, we try to see if we can pare down certain dishes without losing the the structure and the main flavor profile. So, sometimes we might take a dish that is comprised of two elements and take only one element and make it into a new dish. Like a fish and a salad condiment could turn into just a salad. So just to make people's life a little bit more easy, but without losing the flavors.
The whole thing is, so we still told a story that how we actually serve it in NOPI. Out of this, one example is like, I use our leverage and nettles in the kitchen. Love that ingredient. And basically, I just recently, like doing the book, you cannot buy it in the shops, You can't find it in your local Waitrose or Sainsbury's and Tesco's. So one of the things we learned out of it was basically some of the herbs we buy on a normal day, like watercress, rocket, spinach, really comes really close to what you can get like leverage and nettles. So that's a big go on that book basically. So
master stock is an Asian, very dark stock made with soy sauce and lots of spices and Shaoxing wine and all sorts of. It's like intense, salty and sweet.
When I did the tasting for Yotam, I did it two different. I did it with the lamb and I did with the beef.
Well, master stock.
Yeah, master stock. Then I later on years, if you look at the recipe, like we want to get a bit more upscale. You can take the dark soy sauce and a little bit of light soy sauce instead, just mixing around, and you can actually poach it with the fish. And you can actually poach it with vegetables too if you want, like spring onions, enoki mushrooms, shiitake. But now I realize that once you make it once for the book, you can always just pull it out your fridge anytime and do that recipe with so many different goes. I hope the readers will enjoy making that stock and really understand it.
So you're kind of investing in something a bit like your mother dough, your mix for sourdough. It's just there.
Your base.
You keep on feeding it, and it just improves over time. That's the essence of
my mother. I think she's lasted 6 years in the freezer.
One master stock.
Yeah, one master stock. There's times like she'll go longer, but she throws it after a few years later. But it depends how many times she uses it. For me, it's a good frying pan. You got to have a good non-stick frying pan, that's one of the main things for me, a good stick knife. And for me, a spatula. I don't know why, a rubber spatula. I just feel that, I'm so used to using spoons in the kitchen, but rubber spatula is one of the things that you need to have in your home. How about you?
I mean, my basic tools, even take them with me on holiday, are my garlic crush and my lemon squeezer. Because, I've got this one of those yellow lemon squeezer that you just stick half a lemon, just juices, you don't get any pips in. Because I use so much of both, I can't be bothered to start chopping them up or squeezing lemons with the juice. I want to have those two hands because those are the two key ingredients. And we're very low tech. In this kitchen we'll have a lot of complicated stuff, like Thermomix and all sorts of gadgets. But actually for this book, for the NOPI cookbook and the way I cook at home, it's very, very basic stuff. You want to have a really sharp knife, a mandolin for quick slicing, your lemon juicer, your garlic crush, a good frying pan, non-stick, like Scully says.
A good blender too. I think really efficient to do like little purees and your pestos and that kind of stuff.
So. And even stuff that we do like smoking, we do it really low tech. We don't have a smoker, but we do smoke labneh cheese. So we do it in a pan over a little tray or over a little rack, and you can really use very simple ingredients to get equipment for getting really good flavors.
For me, I think I have a lot of moments that I do have to take away once in a blue moon. But if I do cook, it's basically for my flatmates. It's always nice to have a simple dish, cook after work, and then you have your flatmates to talk about. But when I do dinner parties, I go the whole way.
He does.
And I'm not going to lie to you, I'll take the 2 days to get it ready. Because I just want to make sure. I always like people, when you invite people at home, and you always watch them eat your food, and you have that little quietness for something. If you have a long, it's a good thing. You've done something right, and that's the main thing. And the hardest thing is the washing up part. So
I know, but you should let your flatmates do the washing up.
Why not?
I don't cook much during the week because I'm completely surrounded by food the whole day. Almost the last thing I want to do is eat. sometimes I come home, I don't know about you, I come home in the evening, I cook some pasta, I put some olive oil on it, or I just have a slice of cheese and red wine, and that's for me for the day, because you're just so full of flavors, surrounded by flavors the whole day, that you really don't want to eat. But so normally when I cook properly, I cook on the weekend, and we have people over, and I normally want to do a nice selection of things. No, I'm not the kind of cook that serves a starter, a main course, and a dessert. I would have I wouldn't even call it meze, but a kind of spread of salads, roasted vegetables, maybe some grain like rice with lentils, and just present it really beautiful, a bit like the Ottolenghi style. And people just kind of indulge themselves in all those options. And this is how I like to cook. But I really cook much less than I ever used to, just because work is just such a...
We're surrounded with food constantly.
And constantly tasting and testing new recipes, so you really kind of cook much less.
It's always nice when someone invites you to your house as a chef like you, and you go, oh, thank you, someone's cooking for me now. It's great.
I get invitations.
I think you get more
I get invitations, and I like to go to people's houses. I know sometimes they feel pressurized, because you think, a chef comes over for dinner, and you think, oh God, I can really, blow it up. But essentially, this is what I always tell to my friends and everybody: just cook me the same thing you cooked last time, because I don't want to be stunned. I just like really good food, and often people experiment on you, and I think this is the worst thing. I never experiment on my guests. I always cook something that I've already cooked a few times before.
And that's a good tip too.
I never experiment when you entertain. People go, I'm going to cook Burmese for these people because I've never cooked Burmese and I want to try this new cookbook. It's like the wrong thing to do, because you have no idea what you're doing, and it's just kind of
backfire to you anytime.
And I also like to go to friends and I ask them, cook that same thing that you've done for me last time, and the time before that, and the time before that, because I know it's really good.